If you don't like the results, stop justifying the excuses. That's one way we could look at it. But another is that perhaps you should stop judging your results. And honestly, I think that for most of us, what we need is a little bit of both. And in this penultimate episode of the bonus series that I've been doing on decisions, I'm going to show you what this could look like. So if you're ready, let's dive right in. Welcome back to the Your Life podcast. I suspect this will be another micro pod for you today, so hang on tight. And I just want to share more about those two decisions. And I think when we talk about them, it's going to help you to see how you could make an instant change in your life, not just in how you perceive something, but more importantly, how you feel as you go about creating the change that you want in your life. And this comes from some journaling that I did at the start of the week. And I did something I've not done in a really long time, which is kind of, people call it free writing or channel writing. And I just set an intention, I drew a card and I asked a question and I just let my pen do the talking. And the first thing that I wrote at the top of my page was this: imagine that you had no comparison. What would you choose to think, feel, and do then? And it got me to thinking, and it got me to creating this podcast for you. So let me just expand on that a little bit more for you. Now, obviously, as a coach, when I'm coaching my clients, it's normally because they want to change in their life in some way. They want a result they don't have. And the problem is that because they don't have what they want, it doesn't feel good to be in that space. Now, the obvious solution to that is to create a plan of action, to put the steps in place and to decide what they want to do. And really, in theory, all plans are pretty simple. You know, if it was a business, if I was doing some business coaching, like tell more people what you do, make more offers, make more sales, and it doesn't matter whether it's in person, online, whether it's ads or organic traffic, like it doesn't matter. There's some just simple basic rules to be done. Weight loss, make better food choices, move your body more, get more sleep, relationships, create time together, lose the technology every night, change the way that you talk to each other. Really, whenever we want to create change, the steps are pretty simple no matter what we're trying to change. But as we have talked about in many episodes before now, strategy is normally not where the problem is. It's the execution. And we are the executioner. You and I are the executioner of the strategy. And when we don't get what we want, we normally have to have a look close to home and take full personal responsibility for not having what we want. So when you are in that space, and I do believe genuinely most of us have been here, or we are here, when you keep seeing results that you don't want, when you keep seeing the same things over and over again, and it's not what you decided that you wanted, we have these two choices. Number one is to stop justifying your excuses. And the way I described this to a client this week was this: it is your brain that offers you the excuses, but it is you, your mind, that gets to stick or pass. Like on the game of 21s, like you get to say stick and you get to hold on to that excuse, or you get to say pass. I see why you're doing it, brain, but it's not helpful for the results that I want. So I'm going to pass on that one. I'm going to make a different decision for myself. And I know it's a little more complicated than that, because I know that our brain is wired for safety and it's very clever and it sets up all these physiological triggers and emotional triggers and it's a whole thing. But the crux of it is that your brain offers you the excuses to keep you safe, in other words, to keep you where you are, but you as a very powerful human being have the option to stick or pass on those excuses. And in that moment, you are making microscopic decisions every day that are creating your macroscopic reality. Just because you don't see the immediate result of that one missed Instagram live or the double cheeseburger or the sarcastic comment under your breath to your spouse, it doesn't mean that it's not having an impact, because everything that you do every single day has an impact. And this is really hard, right? Because the excuses feel really genuine. Like they feel really real. They're probably going to, you're going to feel them throughout your body. But 9 times out of 10, they are not real. They are just circumstances that are challenging. They are obstacles in your way. But when you stay in the excuse, you are choosing not to be the person who wants it bad enough to seek a different way. And I have got an assignment for you at the end that's going to help you to start unravel that just a little bit. And I also want to really tap onto the end of that as well. Please don't hear me saying this as a way to say you are not doing enough. A lot of you will want to automatically go to, I knew it. I knew I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't working hard enough. I'm not enough. I'm not pushing enough. Absolutely not. Time and time again, what comes up for my clients is that they're not shying away from hard work. In fact, they work really, really hard. What they're not doing is giving themselves a chance to bring all themselves to the table. I think I talked about this in a previous podcast. They're not giving themselves to kind of create these mosaic moments in their life. They're so attached to just one goal that they forget that there are other what's the word I'm looking for? Complementary aspects of their life that they need to give attention to in order to make this goal achievement just so much more easier and more fluid. Like, it's going to be challenging. So please, when I say stop justifying your excuses, don't let your brain take you straight to, it means that I've got to do more work. Oftentimes it's actually stepping back from the work and connecting more to who you are. That's a whole other podcast episode. So that's step number one. When you're not seeing the results that you want, you have to get clear on the excuses that you keep justifying over and over again because you're believing that they're real. The other side of that equation is, and this is what I coach a lot on, more and more every month, every time I sign a new client on, we tend to be going to this space, is stop judging the results. Your results are actually neutral. You give them a charge. As an example, let's just say you went to a weight loss club and you get on the scales and you lose 2 pounds. That's completely neutral. It is just a 2 pound weight loss. And to you, you might feel like, well, that's not enough because the person before you just got on and they lost 7. But it's all neutral. And somebody else might be absolutely stoked with that 2 pound. It depends on who you are, where you are, what your journey is. Nearly everything in life is a circumstance, a neutral circumstance that we create charge with the thoughts that we give it and the meaning that we give it. So when we're looking at the results that we have and we understand that they're neutral, it gives us, we have to have a look at, where are we creating this feeling, but where are we creating comparison? So as an example, as you know, I work with a lot of business owners, and if you weren't bombarded with so much media about 5 and 6 figure months, multiple 7 and 8 figure businesses, influencers and online entrepreneurs, I can guarantee you would feel completely different and 100% better about your business today than you did 20 seconds ago when you was comparing yourself to all these other people and all these other things that you see online. Think about the fact that we see like these tiny, slim, beautiful women on TV and the film stars and the fast cars and the big bank accounts. And I just wonder how much of you and so one of the questions when we come to this is, how much of your desire to change comes from not being able to make peace with where you are because you're too busy comparing to where you think you should be? And if you had no comparison, remember at the beginning, if you had no comparison, what would you choose to think and feel and do? So please think about that part of it. When you're thinking about how badly you judge where you are and the results that you currently have, would you have the same thoughts and feelings about that if you weren't comparing it to something else? Would you be able to find a different perspective? And that's what I'm going to offer you in the homework today. Now, we all have, I believe, a bank of what we call these justifiable excuses. You know it's impacting the results that you want, but they're like, they roll off your tongue, these excuses. They feel really real. You've been using them and you're kind of quite attached to them. It's really hard to own them. It's hard to dig them out and take personal responsibility for them. And then it's even harder to let them go. So let's appease the brain a little bit by taking it slowly. And I want you to think about your top 3 to 5 most commonly used excuses. The easiest way for you to do this is to think about something that you've been trying to achieve, a change, a goal you've been working on for a period of time that you're not making the progress that you want in the time that you want. And if you track back, if you kind of look back and make a movie, you'll see and hear yourself saying the same things over and over again about why you're not doing what you should be doing, etc., etc. Lots of them sound like, I don't have time, I'm too busy. Somebody else like that's in your family or your life, they won't like it. They're not going to support me. I work hard, play hard. That was my nemesis. I work hard, play hard. I'm switching off at the weekend. I'm cracking open the wine, that kind of thing. I can't afford it, or it's too expensive. I don't know how. It's too hard. It's just not me. This doesn't feel good. Like, just please go and find your bank of justifiable excuses and pick out the top 3 to 5 that you use on loop. And then pick one. Pick the one that if you was able to turn that excuse around, it would have the biggest impact. Because I've said this to you a lot recently, how you do one thing is how you do another thing. So if you have an excuse like I deserve it, work hard, play hard, it won't just be impacting one area of your life. It will be impacting other areas of your life. It's just like a natural law. So pick the one that will have the biggest impact and just problem solve for that particular pothole. Right, go check out the episode on planning for failure. When you can find that pothole and you can fill that pothole in and you can plan for it, oh my goodness, it's life-changing. It's go listen to that episode. I think it's like 171, planning for failure. So I wanted to give you an example. So if you think about the example of I don't have enough time, this is so common, right? And I want to suggest to you that here are some ways you can problem solve for that justifiable excuse. When can I create the time? What could I swap out? What if I gave this other thing 30 minutes instead of 20 minutes? 30 minutes instead of an hour. Who can I get to help me so I can create more time? Where am I wasting my time? Because here's the thing, one change is better than none. You don't have to go from 0 to hero overnight, but just finding that one excuse that you're willing to problem solve for and create a change around that, it will have a domino effect. Now, the second part of the homework is about the judging. And I think this is probably the most dangerous part, because when we're in judge, we're in a space of not enoughness. And when we're in a space of not enoughness, how can we receive all that is available to us? We just can't. So I want you to think about this. What comparisons are you making that make your results not enough? Now, this could be a time scale. It could be about other people. It could be about not being far enough down the line yet, like an age thing. But 9 times out of 10, you'll be comparing yourself to something or someone, and that is allowing you to choose to minimize the results that you have right now. And the last part is, if you had nothing to compare with, what would you do and think and feel differently today? So as an example, I did a podcast again fairly recently where I talked about there is this kind of when we think about somebody that we admire. I'll take somebody in the business industry that I know. So when I think about this particular person that I really admire and I look at them and think, oh, you're so successful, da da da. Some days, like, they're an absolute inspiration. On other days, it can make me feel like, oh, I've got so far to go. Right now, if I didn't have that person to compare myself with, I would think so very differently. So that's an exercise that I'm using for myself right now. If any of you out there are going through the perimenopause or menopause, did I say menopause? You know that it's a struggle to manage the hormones and the moods that come with that. And so I'm having to lean into doing this work a lot more than I've had to do in a really long time. And one of the things that I keep coming back to is this feeling of not being peaceful. Where am I looking at that's making me feel that? Because if we were just here, if we were just present with ourselves, if we were just in the moment and judging ourselves just on how happy we were and how we showed up and what we've achieved today and all of that kind of things, it would be a very different life experience. So I really hope you've enjoyed this penultimate episode. Please do take the time just to do the homework. Even if you want to just do it in your head, think about the excuses that you keep justifying with your mind and think about where you're judging yourself and what would be different for you if you took one excuse and no longer justified it and you stopped judging. How much more ease would you bring into your daily life, your daily actions every day from now on? Thank you for being part of the community. I will speak to you again in the next episode of the Your Rich Life podcast.